Okay, I thought I'd try a little video to walk through the different parts of the assignment this week. Feel free to let me know how this works, if it makes it a little easier for you to follow things. Okay, so this is the assignment for this week, which will be due on Sunday, the 27th. Okay, so I'm going to put the video will be put right in here, this video I'm making after I get done. I couldn't put it in there until after I did it, so it was like a catch, which comes first, the chicken or the egg. But okay, so there are a number of things I'd like you to do this week. Um, some of them won't be too time consuming, but as I say here, there's a lot going on. So as always, be careful to just work through the different bullet points. I tried, particularly this week, to put them in a suggested order in terms of what you might be able to do first and what you're going to need to wait to get some more information later in the week to be able to do. So the first thing I suggest is that you look at comments that I will put on the Google Docs from last week. I'm not going to do it until tomorrow because people have until Sunday, today at midnight, to get it up. But let me show you a few things about that. So let's see. I'm going to let's go back to last week. Let's work here. Okay, so the Google Docs are in this, finding, evaluating, and citing sources. So I'll have to click again. Okay, so I drew attention in your email to this Robots in the Workplace. If you haven't had a chance to look at that, I just wanted to show a few things about the way that's set up that the rest of you might use. It's a little bit complicated here, keeping track of who has posted what. So I thought that Erica and Morella did a really nice job here of making it clear who was doing what. So Erica originally posted some sources, and notice she has these done as hyperlinks. This is the way they should appear. You can't see the URL, but if I click here, it gives you the URL, and hopefully, if things are working, that will bring you into the source. Now this is a database thing, so what it should bring you to is a sign-in screen. So if you've got the URLs in there, clean those up. So instead you're going to have the title here. You'll take the URL, copy the URL, then highlight the title, and then go up to the clicky thing, the link thing, click that and paste the URL, so the URL goes in back of this so you don't see it, that messy, ugly looking thing. And then Erica, listed where she found these and what her search terms were. And she got those up earlier in the week, and then Morella went along and she decided she was going to be purple, which, the color coding is a good way to do this, as I suggested. And she put right below Erica's sources her evaluation, and then she did her citation. So, I'm probably going to be able to find some quibbles here or there with either the annotations or the citations. So I will be going in again tomorrow, Monday, and making some notes. I usually try to stay away from red as a color because it has such negative connotations for writing teachers, teachers generally. But I probably will use red as my comment color if somebody else isn't using red, just so my comments stand out. So I'll get in and have some things to say on each of these Google Docs. So that's the Google Docs. Now, okay, so check that over, because getting a good sense of what's a good source, what's a bad source, how you do the citations, all that's going to be information that you'll need for Essay 3 and Essay 4. Okay, so I'm in assignment week 7, so I'm going to go back here to this week. Okay, so that's the Google Doc. Essay 3, Essay 2, the final draft of that is part of what you need to do for this week. But I haven't gotten in there to make comments yet, so wait till you see some feedback from me before you work on your final draft of Essay 2. So that is why that is at the bottom. I will try to get those comments up Monday or Tuesday at the latest. So you have some time to work on that. But in the meantime, if you're just itching to do something for your English 101 class, you might get started on Essay 3. Now, Essay 3 is a complicated kind of essay. There's a lot going on. That's one of the reasons I wanted to do this little video, to kind of walk you through that. We're going to take 2 weeks to do the rough draft. You've got part of it is due this week, this coming week, and then the rest of it next week. So you don't have to do everything all at once. I'm stretching that out, and then you'll get some feedback, and then the final draft of that will be due. So the assignment is here. It's also over here. This is just links right to that same thing. But let's look first at what the final product is going to look like. So I put a link here to one of my students' blogs from a previous semester who did that assignment on a different topic, but he did a pretty good job with the formatting. It's not perfect in terms of content. There may be some issues here or there, but he did the format the way I wanted it. So if you click here, you'll be brought to his Essay 2. Well, Essay 3 for you, it was Essay 2 for him. What this is going to look like in final form is a report, a short expository report, the sort of thing, similar maybe to what a Wikipedia article would look like, or an encyclopedia article. You're not making an argument, you're giving some information, some fact-based, specific information about a topic. If the topic is controversial, you may say something about the controversy that some people think blah-de-blah, and other people because blah-de-blee, and other people think something else, and this is their reasoning. So you might present that controversy, but you're not taking a stand yourself. This essay should probably not have any use of the first person I. Unlike the text wrestling, where you were actively engaging yourself, you were, engaging with these ideas. Here you're presenting it more objectively. So he's got his report first. It's just a short, this is not a big research paper, this is just a short report. The purpose of this assignment is to walk you through the steps of a research paper fairly quickly. And then these are hopefully procedures that you'll be able to use in future research papers that you do. You'll be able to use these similar steps in Essay 4 for this class, and then for other, hopefully, research papers in other classes that you do. So he's got a short report. 3 or 4 paragraphs is all I'm looking for. Nothing too extensive. I would like some specific, hard, information in it. You can see some numbers here. And this will have in-text citations in it. That's what these parentheses with the author's last name is. I will have, there's been a little bit of information I've given you about in-text citation, but I will go into that a little bit more in the week 9 materials, because week 9 is probably when you'll be writing this report. So you can read through here. He's got some formatting issues. It's not perfect, but basically it's a pretty good model. So at the end of the report, you're going to have an annotated bibliography. Now, normally in MLA, you would call this works cited. Because it's fuller than just the works cited entries, we'll call this an annotated bibliography. The annotated part just means that with each source, you have a little bit of explanation, information about the source, about what information is in the source, and some indication of how credible the source is. And of course, you want all credible sources here. So I asked in the assignment for 5 or 6 sources. So he has his sources here. It's more or less an MLA format. It's not perfect. There's some issues here, but you'll have yours obviously in perfect format. And I'll be able to get in and I'll give you some comments on the rough draft format if you have some MLA issues. The title in your final product should be hyperlinked. So if I click here, it'll bring me to that Our House is Grandma's House too. Again, I've given you some information about how to do hyperlinks. If you're still having problems, I'll do another short video later in the week if it looks like people are having issues. I know some of you are perfectly fine and have been doing that for a number of weeks. So we've got these sources. It's MLA format, so they're alphabetized. Normally in MLA format, you'd have a hanging indent, which would mean this second line is indented. On the blog, you don't have to worry about that. When you do a final draft and you send it in paper format, I would like it to be formatted the way you would normally do on paper. But again, I'll give you some information about that when we get closer to that time. So he's got his sources. They're alphabetized. There's some space here. Again, don't worry about the hanging indent. And then below each source, he's got a little bit of information. These annotations are not great because he's giving me some indication about credibility, but he's not giving a brief indication of what information is in the source. So I would like a little fuller annotation that just briefly in a sentence or two sums up the main point of the article and or the types of information that's included. Now the other reason that you're calling this annotated bibliography instead of works cited, according to the assignment, you don't have to use all of these sources in your short report. So I'd like you to look for some sources that give you some good information that will let you write the short report, but also works cited would imply that you were using every single one of these, and that's not going to necessarily be the case. I also would like you to think in the annotated bibliography about providing information for a reader who might be interested in learning more about your topic. So look for some good, meaty sources that maybe you're just going to look at quickly in order to see what's in them and to make sure they're good quality sources. You may not use them, but provide them to your reader, to that reader who wants more information. So this is where book sources that maybe you can't actually get a hold of a book, but through Amazon or through the library's online catalog, you find a book that looks like it would be great. So if you found it in Amazon, you might be able to look inside the text, or you may see some reviews that give you some information about what the book covers. So use that information that you can find through looking in the book, through looking at the book jacket, through looking at reviews in order to write just a short little blurb. And again, you don't necessarily have to actually use any of that information. So he's got his 5 or 6 sources here. Everything's nicely hyperlinked. The MLA format it's getting better as we go along. I think that first one wasn't too good, had some issues. I don't know what this latest Tome Designs, if that's part of this title or exactly what's going on, but it's getting better as we go along. And is he alphabetized? Yeah, it looks like it's correctly alphabetized. Okay, so that's what the final version is going to look like. But if we go back, and I think we're going to go back this way, if we go back to the assignment, of course, you're not going to sit down and the first sentence that you write is going to be the first sentence of that report. You need to collect your sources first and to take some notes and to get things organized before you can write that. And what I'd like you to use the blog for is a kind of workspace so I can see what you're doing as you go along. It's also helpful for you. That's a way to save sources. So you may want to start a post that just collects up some possible sources. You can use the blog and use the hyperlink as a way to kind of bookmark the sources as you go along. So you might want to look for more than 5 or 6 sources. You may want to post, you may end up with, start with 10 or 12 that look possible and then winnow through those. 2 sources may have similar information, so choose the better one of the 2 and get it down to 5 or 6. It's perfect. I'm not going to take off points if you have more than 5 or 6. That's fine as well. But I would, cast your net wide and then winnow things down. So as you find those initial sources, initially just post them as hyperlinked, just as you did on the Google Doc. Then once you've completed your research, or at least you think you have, you've gotten a good number of sources, then you can go back and, just as you did on the Google Doc, except now you're doing your own sources, do those 2 parts. Evaluation, summary evaluation, little, again, 3 or 4 sentences, nothing too long. You don't have to go into all the gory details, but just a little bit of information about what's in the source and why it's credible. and then to do the MLA works cited format. If you look at the assignment itself, in the order of information, I kind of walk you through the steps that you can do. So first you want to start with selecting a topic. I'd like you to email those topics so I can give you some feedback about them. I need to approve those topics, so I'd like you to try to get that done early in the week. This red again is an indication of a deadline. I'm kind of trying to color code things, so green is a link, blue is either a subhead or something I just want to draw your attention to, and red is a deadline. These are some possible topics drawn from kind of narrowing those topics that you used, that you looked up for the Google Doc and the topics that you did for the text wrestling. You're not locked into what you did for Essay 2 or for the Google Doc. You can jump ship again to a third topic. Those topics that we used for the Google Docs were rather broad. So for this, because you're writing such a short report, I'd like you to narrow down the topic. So start with those ideas of robots as therapists, or you could look more broadly at some sort of social application of robots, robots in the workplace and robots in the military. I give some suggested ways to narrow it down here. So here, use of robots in a particular industry. Here are some examples of one or the other, or some other industry you might be interested in. If there's another topic that's outside of the scope of those three that we did for Essay 2 and for the Google Doc, I'm open to that. Just run it by me. It should be something that's narrow enough so that you could cover it with some specific information in just a few paragraphs. You're going to give expository information, not an argument. You want something that you're going to be able to find sources about. This should be fact-based, so you're not going to be writing about, our CPO, whatever that robot was, R2D2 or any of those guys, but some real-world applications of robotics or proposed applications of robotics in the future. So first you need to find a topic, then you're going to look for some sources. Again, I link you back to the page about finding sources. Post those as hyperlinks, and here, post these as hyperlinks on your blog. For database sources, again, make sure that you're getting the permalink. Ask if you have questions about that. If you have any questions, make sure that you're writing down the database that you searched on your blog, so you can get back to that if you have the author and the title. If you have book sources, I suggest linking to the Amazon page. Then do your works cited. I've given some links here to the same stuff that I linked to before, and annotate the sources. For this week, this is as far as I'm requiring you to get your 1-point punctuality point for the week. If you would like to go further to do this works cited and or the annotations, I'll give you extra credit punctuality points for that, 1 apiece. So if you do the works cited and not the annotations, you get 1. You do the annotations and not the works cited, you get 1. Or if you do both of these, you'll get an extra 1 extra point. If you do both of these, you'll get, so you have a total of 3 punctuality points out of 1, which was the requirement. So that will help those of you who may have fallen behind a little bit. And this information about taking notes, this is once you've decided on your sources, you want to take some notes and actually organize some paragraphs and draft the report. This will be the assignment that you'll be working on for week 9. Of course, you're free to work ahead, but that'll be the main assignment. I'll give you some information about note-taking, some information about another sort of review of plagiarism, and there's some videos I've been sifting through that I'll link you to on plagiarism, and then you'll turn in that rough report. Again, that will be 2 weeks from today, August 3rd, will be when the completed rough draft, as you saw on Luke's page with the report and then the annotated bib. And their criteria, as always, at the end for you to look over, and this will be these will be the things I'll ask you to pay attention to when you're doing peer review. Okay, so if we go back here, There's a writing exercise here I'd like you to do, paying attention to paragraphing. I think this is self-explanatory. Finding a paragraph that has some issues with focus development or coherence. It makes sense. The practical thing to do would be to find one of your own paragraphs, perhaps in Essay 2, and revise it. Then I'd just like you to post that on your blog, the original paragraph, your paragraph, if your revised paragraph. If you can't find one of your own paragraphs that you think has some serious problems, feel free to go scouring around in other people's blogs. Maybe the person that you did peer review had a paragraph that you thought would be a good one to work on. And remember, it was a rough draft for them. They may have changed the paragraph completely, so it's not, you know, paragraphing is something that most of you should be thinking about in revision, so don't worry about hurting other people's feelings too much. And so you're going to make a post that has the original paragraph, your revised paragraph, and then a few sentences about what you changed and why you changed it. And then here's the final draft of Essay 2. So I think that should keep you fairly busy this week. Let me know if you have some questions. I'll get this video posted in just a sec.